Hi. Welcome to Good Mornings and Quarantine with Pastor Michelle. We've entered that stage of quarantine where I'm just like sitting here eating my cereal. Anyway, I hope everyone is doing okay on this Wednesday morning, Wednesday, May 20th. I thought we'd start, as we have been this week, with a little bit of good news. In the midst of all that's going on in our world, it's nice to have it's nice to hear some good news for a change. And so today we're going to talk about a group of UK National Health Service workers. And so there's a group of health service workers. Yeah, that's where I'm going for. Who recorded a cover of Simon and Garfunkel's "Bridge Over Troubled Water" to pay tribute to staff at a place in North Wales, and I can't pronounce the word, but some venue. This place in North Wales has been converted from a theater into a field hospital to treat coronavirus patients. The hospital has been named something that means Welsh for Rainbow Hospital, as a symbol of hope. So the video features NHS staff, which is the UK National Health Service workers, construction workers, and the Conway Council staff choir singing the ballad in English and Welsh as images of the hospital's construction fade in and out. It's so moving. Even songwriter Paul Simon posted the video on his social media, calling it extraordinary and praising them for their bravery. And so I think I will definitely be posting that on my Facebook today. Music is powerful. I know yesterday I watched the Graduate Together 2020, and there was some great music in that as well. And also President Obama spoke, and he was amazing. And then there's another story. We could not stop laughing about a peacock who was outsmarted by a police officer's cell phone. The peacock was named Snowbank, escaped from the Franklin Park Zoo in Boston. So since peacocks aren't exactly native to the area, it didn't take long for an alarmed resident in a nearby neighborhood to alert police to this bird. So here's where it gets good. A quick-thinking Boston police officer pulled up a peacock mating call on his phone, and the peacock, probably hoping for a little extra rendezvous, was easily lured to a safe spot, captured, and escorted back to the zoo. Come on, Snowbank. You could be at least a little coy. So there's a little bit of humor and some good news for you today. And I'll make sure to share that bridge over troubled waters. Because right now I feel like we're all on a bridge over troubled water right now. And we're on it together at least. So my friends, let's start with some inspiration from this book. What do I do when I don't like who I am? And someone answers, hang out with people who do like who you are. I think old woman would have been proud of my response. So the single hardest lesson I've ever had to learn is that the grander plan is not mine to create or know. If I'm in ceremony and prayer for the right reasons, I leave all that up to Creator. When I surrender outcome, all things good and pure and peaceful come to me. My job is to choose what appears. Easy to say, but hard to do. Get out of the way enough to allow the energy to flow. Sometimes Creator blinks, sometimes she is not looking at me. Those instances can feel really long some days, but what's going on is that Creator is showing her trust in me. She's letting me know that I have the tools to cope with things, that I've learned enough in my walk with her to walk gracefully through those moments when she blinks. And that's when I should blink too. Close my eyes and breathe. Feel the unceasing current underneath everything. Surrender to it, then open my eyes again to possibility and walk on. That's how I learn to be graceful, full of grace, in the blink of an eye. And let's pray. Our Father and Mother, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Amen. And God bless. Cheerios. All right. Honey Nut Cheerios, that is. All right, so our woman of the day is Hatshepsut, who was a powerful ancient Egyptian pharaoh. So let's hear about our woman of the day. Hatshepsut was born over 3,500 years ago. Thebes, a great city of ancient Egypt. It was a time of huge power and wealth for the rulers, and her father, Thutmose I, was famous for his military strength. When he died, Hatshepsut was around 12 years old. Tradition said that the throne must go to a son, even though she was Thutmose's eldest child and the daughter of his queen, Ames. So the son of a less important wife inherited the throne instead. Princess Hatshepsut's name meant she is first among noble women, but she was forced to take second place. Hatshepsut then married the new pharaoh, Thutmose II, although today we find it strange to think of siblings marrying each other. Ancient Egyptians believed this kept the royal line pure. She and her brother had just one daughter, Neferu-Ra, and so when Thutmose II died, once again the throne went to the son of a lesser wife. But because Thutmose III was too young to rule, Hatshepsut became regent, ruling the kingdom in his place. Then after 7 years, she did something that had never been done before. She named herself Pharaoh. She knew she had to protect her throne carefully since what she had done was so extraordinary. She made sure that she was shown as a man with a beard and strong muscles in all her paintings and statues. In the many writings about her, she is described as a woman, and she is shown as a woman in earlier artwork. So she wasn't trying to make anyone think she was a man. Instead, she was showing her people that she was as powerful and strong as any man. She cleverly went about proving that she was the rightful pharaoh. She strengthened her position by marrying her daughter to Thutmose III. She had artwork made that showed her father, making her his co-ruler. She also claimed that she was the daughter of Amun, king of the gods, which made her a demi-goddess. And she was a good pharaoh, constructing some of the greatest buildings in ancient Egypt, including the beautiful temple Deir el-Bahari. She built more than any pharaoh before her, creating jobs and showing her wealth and power. She even started many trading expeditions, bringing back gold, incense, and other riches, creating great wealth for her kingdom. When she died, her long and peaceful reign came to an end. She was buried in the Valley of the Kings, next to her father. Many years later, Thutmose III had most of the public statues of her destroyed, perhaps because he wanted to erase from everyone's mind the possibility of another woman ever taking power. God forbid. Whatever the reason, she disappeared from history until 1829, when Jean-François Chemicom, someone most famous for decoding the Rosetta Stone, was puzzled by the difference between hieroglyphics that talked about her as a woman and images that showed her as a man. As more of her imagery was found, and others began to discover the truth. Others began to discover the truth about her incredible story. In a land where very few women ruled over thousands of years, she proved that a woman could rule and rule better than the men who came before her. She took power quickly and decisively and cleverly strengthened her position, making sure that there was no question about her leadership. She ruled fairly, peacefully, and well, making Egypt a stronger, better, more beautiful place, and becoming one of the greatest pharaohs and indeed leaders in all of history. Some of her quotes, she is known, she said, "My mouth is effective in its speech. I do not go back on my word. My command stands firm like the mountains. Now my heart turns this way and that as I think what the people will say, those who shall see my monuments in years to come and who shall speak of what I have done." She is first among noble women. So there she is. And there's an image of her, if you can, it's kind of hard to see though. So good for her, taking the title that she deserved. Tomorrow we're going to learn about Isabella I, Spanish queen who united her country, and she started an empire. So that should be fun. And so let me take one more bite of my Honey Nut Cheerios. You really want to see that? They're good. All right. So without further ado, my friends, let's talk about Hunger. Let's do Hunger Games. All right. All right. So we've already met Katniss and her sister and her mom and the cat that Katniss doesn't like. So, and they're talking about the Day of Reckoning. And so let's continue on. Today, her drab school outfit had been replaced by an expensive white dress, and her blonde hair is done up with a pink ribbon. Reaping clothes. Pretty dress, says Gail. Madge shoots him a look, trying to see if it's a genuine compliment or if he's just being ironic. It is a pretty dress, but she would never be wearing it ordinarily. She presses her lips together, then smiles. Well, if I end up going to the Capitol, I want to look nice, don't I? Sorry, I was just making sure something was... Now it's Gail's turn to be confused. Does she mean it, or is she messing with him? I'm guessing the second. You won't be going to the Capitol, says Gail coolly. His eyes land on a small circular pen that adorns her dress. Real gold, beautifully crafted. It could keep a family in bread for months. What can you have? 5 entries? I had 6 when I was just 12 years old. That's not her fault, I say. No, it's no one's fault. Just the way it is, says Gail. Madge's face has become closed off. She puts the money for the berries in my hand. Good luck, Katniss. You too, I say, and the door closes. We walk toward the seam in silence. I don't like that Gale took a dig at Madge, but he's right, of course. The reaping system is unfair, with the poor getting the worst of it. You become eligible for the reaping the day you turn 12. That year your name is entered once, at 13 twice, and so on until you reach the age of 18, the final year of eligibility, when your name goes into the pool 7 times. That's true for every citizen in all 12 districts in the entire country of Panem. But here's the catch. Say you are poor and starving as we were. You can opt to add your name more times in exchange for tessera. Each tessera is worth a meager year's supply of grain and oil for one person. You may do this for each of your family members as well. So at the age of 12, I had my name entered 4 times. Once because I had to, and 3 times for tessera for grain and oil for myself, Prim, and my mother. In fact, every year I've needed to do this, and the entries add up. So now at the age of 16, my name will be in the reaping 20 times. Gail, who is 18 and has been either helping or single-handedly feeding a family of 5 for 7 years, will have his name in 42 times. You can see why someone like Madge, who has never been at risk of needing a tessera, can set himself off. The chance of her name being drawn is very slim compared to those of us who live in the seam. Not impossible, but slim. And even though the rules were set up by the Capitol, not the districts, certainly not Madge's family, it's hard not to resent those who don't have to sign up for tessera. Gale knows his anger at Madge is misdirected. On other days deep in the woods, I've listened to him rant about how the tessera are just another tool to cause misery in our district, a way to plant hatred between the starving workers of the seam and those who can generally count on supper and thereby ensure we will never trust one another. It's to the Capitol's advantage to have us divided among ourselves. He might say if there were no ears to hear but mine, if it wasn't reaping day, if a girl with a gold pen and no tessera had not made what I'm sure she thought was a harmless comment. As we walk, I glance over at Gale's face, still smoldering underneath his stony expression. His rages seem pointless to me, although I'd never say so. It's not that I don't agree with him, I do, but what good is yelling about the Capitol in the middle of the woods? It doesn't change anything. It doesn't make things fair. It doesn't fill our stomachs. In fact, it scares off the nearby game. I let him yell, though. Better do it in the woods than in the district. Gale and I divide our spoils, leaving 2 fish, a couple of loaves of good bread, greens, a quart of strawberries, salt, paraffin, and a bit of money for each. See you in the square, I say. Wear something pretty, he says. At home, I find my mother and sister are ready to go. My mother wears a fine dress from her apothecary days. Prim is in my first reaping outfit, a skirt and ruffled blouse. It's a bit big on her, but my mother has made it with pins. Even so, she's having trouble keeping the blouse tucked in at the back. A tub of warm water waits for me. I scrub off the dirt and sweat from the woods and even wash my hair. To my surprise, my mother has laid out one of her own lovely dresses for me, a soft blue thing with matching shoes. Are you sure? I asked. I'm trying to get past rejecting offers of help from her for a while. I was so angry I wouldn't allow her to do anything for me. And this is something special. Her clothes from her past are very precious to her. Of course, let's put your hair up too, she says. I let her towel dry it and braid it on my head. I can hardly recognize myself in the cracked mirror that leans against the wall. You look beautiful, says Prim in a hushed voice. And nothing like myself, I say. I hug her because I know these next few hours will be terrible for her. Her first reaping. She's about as safe as you can get since she's only entered once. I wouldn't let her take out any tessera, but she's worried about me, that the unthinkable might happen. I protect Prim in every way I can, but I'm powerless against the reaping. The anguish I always feel when she's in pain wells up in my chest and threatens to register on my face. I notice her blouse is pulled out of her skirt in the back again and force myself to stay calm. Tuck your tail in, little duck, I say, smoothing the blouse back in place. Prim giggles and gives me a small quack. Quack yourself, I say with a light laugh, the kind only Prim can draw out of me. Come on, let's eat, I say, and plant a quick kiss on top of her head. The fish and greens are already cooking in a stew, but that will be for supper. We decide to save the strawberries and bakery bread for this evening's meal, to make it special, we say. Instead, we drink milk from Prim's goat, Lady, and eat the rough bread made from the tessera grain, although no one has much appetite anyway. At 1 o'clock, we head for the square. Attendance is mandatory unless you are on death's door. This evening, officials will come around and check to see if this is the case. If not, you'll be imprisoned. It's too bad, really, that they hold the reaping in the square, one of the few places in District 12 that can be pleasant. The square is surrounded by shops, and on market days, especially if there's good weather, it has a holiday feel to it. But today, despite the bright banners hanging on the buildings, there's an air of grimness. The camera crews, perched like buzzards on rooftops, only add to the effect. I don't know what she's barking at. People file in silently and sign in. The reaping is a good opportunity for the Capitol to keep tabs on the population as well. 12 through 18-year-olds are herded into roped areas marked off by ages. The oldest in the front, the young ones, like Prim, toward the back. Family members line up around the perimeter, holding tightly to one another's hands. But there are others, too, who have no one they love at stake or who no longer care, who slip among the crowd, taking bets on the 2 kids whose names will be drawn. Odds are given on their ages, whether they're seam or merchant, or if they will break down and weep. Most refuse dealings with the racketeers, but carefully. These same people tend to be informers and who hasn't broken the law. I could be shot on a daily basis for hunting, but appetites of those in charge protect me. Not everyone can claim the same. Anyway, Gail and I agree that if we have to choose between dying of hunger and a bullet in our head, the bullet would be much quicker. The space gets tighter, more claustrophobic as people arrive. The squares look quite large, but not enough to hold District 12's population of about 8,000. Latecomers are directed to the adjacent streets where they can watch the event on screens as is televised live by the state. I find myself standing in a clump of 16s from the seam. We all exchange terse nods and focus our attention on the temporary stage that is set up before the Justice building. It holds 3 chairs, a podium, and 2 large glass balls, one for the boys and one for the girls. I stare at the paper slips in the girls' ball. 20 of them have Katniss Everdeen written on them in careful handwriting. 2 of the 3 chairs fill with Madge's father, Mayor Undersea, who's a tall, balding man, and Effie Trinket, District 12's escort, fresh from the Capitol with her scary white grin, pinkish hair, and spring green suit. They murmur to each other and they look with concern at the empty seat. Just as the town clock strikes 2, the mayor steps up to the podium and begins to read. It's the very same story every year. He tells the history of Panem, the country that rose up out of the ashes of a place that was once called North America. He lists the disasters, the droughts, the storms, the fires, the encroaching seas that swallowed up so much of the land, the brutal war for what little sustenance remained. The result was Panem, a shining capital ringed by 13 districts, which brought peace and prosperity to its citizens. Then came the dark days, the uprising of the districts against the capital. 12 were defeated, the 13th obliterated. The Treaty of Treason gave us the new laws to guarantee peace, and as our yearly reminder that the dark days must never be repeated, it gave us the Hunger Games. The rules of the Hunger Games are simple. In punishment for the uprising, each of the 12 districts must provide 1 girl and 1 boy, called tributes, to participate. The 24 tributes will be imprisoned in a vast outdoor area that could hold anything from a burning desert to a frozen wasteland. Over a period of several weeks, the competitors must fight to the death. The last tribute standing wins. Taking the kids from our districts, forcing them to kill one another while we watch, this is the Capitol's way of reminding us how totally we are at their mercy. How little chance we would stand of surviving another rebellion. Whatever words they use, the real message is clear. Look how we take your children and sacrifice them, and there's nothing you can do. If you lift a finger, we will destroy every last one of you, just as we did in District 13. To make it humiliating as well as torturous, the Capitol requires us to treat the Hunger Games as a festivity, a sporting event pitting every district against the others. The last tribute alive receives a life of ease back home, and their district will be showered with prizes, largely consisting of food. All year, the Capitol will show the winning district gifts of grain and oil and even delicacies like sugar, while the rest of us battle starvation. It is both a time of repentance and time for thanks, intones the mayor. Then he reads a list of past District 12 victors. In 74 hours, we have had exactly 2. Only one is still alive, Haymitch Abernathy, a paunchy middle-aged man who at this moment appears hollering something unintelligible, staggers onto the stage, and falls. In 74 years. Yeah, did I say hours or years? Okay. Hollering something unintelligible, staggers onto the stage and falls into the third chair. He's drunk. Very drunk. The crowd responds with this token applause, but he's confused and tries to give Effie Trinket a big hug, which she barely manages to fend off. The mayor looks distressed since all this is being televised. Right now, District 12 is the laughing stock of Panem, and he knows it. He quickly tries to pull the attention back to the reaping by introducing Effie Trinket. Bright and bubbly as ever, Effie Trinket trots to the podium and gives her signature. Happy Hunger Games! And may the odds be ever in your favor. Her pink hair must be a wig because her curls have shifted slightly and off-center since her encounter with Haymitch. She goes on a bit about what honor it is to be here, although everyone knows she's just aching to get bumped up to be in a better district where they have proper victors, not drunks who molest you in front of the entire nation. Through the crowd, I spot Gail looking back at me with the ghost of a smile. As reapings go, this one at least has a slight entertainment factor. But suddenly I'm thinking of Gail and his 42 names in that big glass ball and how the odds are not in his favor, not compared to a lot of the boys. And maybe he's thinking the same thing about me because his face darkens and he turns away. But there are still thousands of slips, I wish I could whisper to him. It's time for the drawing. Effie Trinket says, as she always does, "Ladies first," and crosses to the glass ball with the girls' names. She reaches in, digs her hand deep into the ball, and pulls out a slip of paper. The crowd draws in a collective breath, and then you can hear a pin drop. And I'm feeling nauseous and so desperately hoping that it's not me, Effie Trinket crosses back to the podium, smooths the slip of paper, and reads out loud the name in a clear voice. And it's not me. It's Primrose Everdeen. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, sorry. So that ends chapter 1 of Hunger Games. So I do hope everyone has a wonderful Wednesday, and I hope you're doing okay, because I know, man, these days are difficult, but I'm glad we can go through this together. So God bless all of you.